This is a special podcast presentation from 700WLW.com. This is Doc Thompson On Demand.
Doc Thompson on 700 WLW. My special guest is Chad. And Chad, you're going to have to help me with your last name. How do you pronounce your last name?
Aldis.
Aldis. Okay, make sure I had it right there. And the group you are with is School Choice Ohio. What is School Choice Ohio?
We're a nonprofit organization founded about 5 years ago with a very simple premise, and that is all kids in the state of Ohio should have access to a high-quality education, whatever works for them. Traditional public school, charter school, private school, and the state should play a role in helping to make that possible.
So and that sounds like a very noble cause. Is there more at the root of it? Are you saying they should play a role because if we all pay money in taxes, I should be able to spend those tax dollars then that go to my child's education wherever I want? Is that basically the premise?
Yeah, I think that's the fundamental argument is that every parent already contributes to the system as well as everyone in the community contributes to our educational system. And what we all want is a high-quality educational system. I mean, the job of schools is to educate the public. And that's by giving people more options, it helps to make that more effective.
Now, the problem with that, Chad, is that if everybody takes their kids out of one particular school district, then that school district, even because the education or the quality there is not as good, then it suffers even more.
Well, they're only taking their kids out because no one leaves and flees from a school that's performing well. So if we're looking at long-term outcomes and students performing well, providing a huge number of options for those families to choose from, especially when there are some high-quality options and they're not getting that already, we'll end up with a long-term societal benefit.
No, and I agree with you on this, and I agree with you in the attitude. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people that don't, Chad. What they say is, well, if you do that because people are leaving a bad district or a district that isn't as good as another, then it gets worse and worse and worse. And that district, those couple of kids that can't get out or whatever, or parents don't make that choice, then they really suffer. And I believe basically in survival of the fittest. You're doing a good job. You will continue to do a good job. People will want to go there. And if you're not, it should go away and it would die off then.
Well, and a great example is the Cleveland Metropolitan School District.
Horrible.
Yeah, 50 years ago, they had 100,000 kids. This year, they're under 50,000 kids. Okay, so people whose fear is that everyone will flee, wait, that's already happening. Instead, who's left? The people left now are the ones who couldn't afford to move, who couldn't afford to go to the suburbs. Now, they are doing some work, just like Cincinnati Public Schools are trying to work hard to transform their public schools. That's the job of the school district. And, and kudos to them for putting together some really aggressive efforts.
I don't even know, do they even have a 55% graduation rate now?
You're almost right on. 54 was the last number I saw.
That's when I recall. I remember it has gone up. I think theirs at one point about 10 years ago was about 38%.
How do we expect to get anything from our schools when there's that sort of success rate? And it doesn't have to be that way. Did you know that Catholic schools in the Cleveland school district, who serve a lot of inner city students, just the ones that are able to, for whatever reason, maybe using the state voucher program that's operating in Cleveland, but their graduation rate is over 90%. With a lot of the same kids.
And see, that's my argument with this whole thing. If you look at, and again, the idea of how we fund education is at the front line again, because you've got a lot of districts around here who say, we're not going to pass any new levies. We can't afford it. In fact, it looks like West Claremont School District is going to try to go ahead and put a levy on the ballot. The problem is the success that these public schools have had has not kept up with their funding. You've got one of the worst school districts in America is the D.C. school district. Their graduation rate is incredibly low, and yet they spend as much or more per student than most people in America. I think depending upon the way you break it down, because I've seen the numbers a couple different ways, what's included in the spending and all of this stuff, is as much as $27,000 per student per year.
Right.
And Chad, you and I could take $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $8,000 and enroll our kid in a private school, a good private school.
And to top that off, using the D.C. example, they had a scholarship program, a voucher program that allowed kids in D.C. public schools to go to a private school. and they got a scholarship in the amount of $7,500, and they were finding seats in private schools. It was serving 1,700 kids with 3 applications for every available slot. These were, when everybody says families don't know what they want or they don't know what they're going to select. Well, open up a voucher program, give families an opportunity, especially low-income families, to be a consumer, and you'll be shocked at exactly how much families do know about what a quality education looks like.
Absolutely. They do know. And the first thing, Chad, is they understand they want their kid learning. I mean, you can tell as a parent, in a general sense, if your kid is learning, if you pay attention at all and look around the district, see what the graduation rates are. I mean, you have a pretty good idea. Just a glance at it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and Ohio has been on the forefront of the school choice movement. There are 3 voucher programs in the state of Ohio. The Cleveland voucher that I alluded to just a few moments ago, it's been in operation since 1996. There's a scholarship for all students in the state of Ohio who are diagnosed with autism, which has been a growing epidemic in the country. But in the state of Ohio, you can actually get a scholarship for up to $20,000 per year to get services from private providers or attend a private school. And then we have probably the most well-known of Ohio scholarship programs, the Ed Choice Scholarship Program. And that's targeted to students in our lowest-performing public schools, about 200 students all around the state, mostly in our urban areas, who have gotten a D or F on the state report card 2 of the past 3 years. And those kids right now have an avenue and have a way out. Unfortunately, that leaves a lot of families, a lot of middle-income and lower-income families who don't happen to be in that school, but they're in a school where the individual child isn't progressing, isn't doing well, and that's why we need something new in Ohio.
Yeah, because there's some flaws with it. First of all, the Cleveland is exclusive to Cleveland.
Right.
The one for autistic kids is exclusive to them. So really, the other one you're talking about, the third, that anybody potentially could if they are doing poorly enough. And you said that was in a low-performing district or a poor district?
A low-performing building, the actual building. So in Cincinnati, you've got about 25 schools that are considered lowest performing. But then the rest of the schools, you couldn't get that scholarship. So,
see, and the problem is there, what we're not saying is let's raise everybody's quality of education. Let's encourage every student, because even if you're doing well, sure, you want them to do as well as possible. Can they take another step? And that leaves a lot of people that are doing, just kind of bad or just average or just above average. Let's go ahead and raise everybody's up there. Right.
That's exactly right. And there was a proposal in the last General Assembly. It just came in December, right before the General Assembly left. State Representative Chris Jordan, now State Senator Chris Jordan, proposed a bill that would create a tax credit scholarship in the state of Ohio. And the way that essentially works is the legislation creates a scholarship funding organization. And individuals and businesses can get a tax credit under state taxes for giving money to this scholarship funding organization. And then the scholarship funding organization, which is a nonprofit, by the way, is able to give scholarships to people around the state, public school students, private school students, to help them have greater access to educational options.
Now, here's the thing, and I'm always skeptical and hesitant about any type of tax credits that we offer, and I'll tell you why. Because for most of us, we have very limited options of where we can send our taxes. And I say this, too, when we get tax deductions for giving monies to charity. What you're saying is I can direct my tax dollars to go to a charity by getting the tax break, and the same thing here. But we don't allow for people to do that, and for some other things that I may want to support. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh, I completely understand.
So I'm a little hesitant on that, but I do like the general idea of let's get in there and talk about some of the other ways we could head forward with this school choice idea. When I mentioned early on in our conversation, Chad, about letting the poor schools die off, not those that are poorly funded or right. Poor economically, but the ones that don't do as well and the ones that succeed, let's reward them and let's say this is the way to go. Unfortunately, that's what we're talking about with that the program you mentioned. What we say is we don't want kids to excel and we don't want kids to fail. As long as kids are just mediocre, middle of the road, we're okay.
And aren't we seeing that on international tests?
Absolutely.
Nowadays, the United States is in the middle of the pack. What once was our forte, excelling, on any international benchmarks, now we're flat in the middle. and that's no place that we think we belong or should be as a nation.
Those are the types of things that make me start thinking crazy conspiracy stuff. That America's quality of education and quality of life and that was so high that there's these grand people, these puppet masters or burger builders or somebody out there trying to get us all on the same level, and they had to bring America down. I mean, it starts making me crazy. Why else would you support the idea of mediocrity instead of saying, let's go out there and challenge people to go, to win, to succeed?
Yeah. America had its greatest success as we had our rugged individualism, as we all pursued, improving our own lives, improving the lives of our families, and education and educational choice is right along that avenue. It's part of what can make America great again.
Chad Aldis is the executive director of School Choice Ohio. Are there any other options out there, ideas out there about allowing kids to spend their money on whatever school they want? Because quite frankly, if you're telling me a district spends, and this would not be uncommon for some districts, $10,000 per student per year.
That's the statewide average.
Is that the statewide average? Yeah. Okay. So statewide, $10,000. You know what? Tell you what, state or local school district, go ahead and keep the extra. Just give me $6,000 to put my kid wherever I want him. You keep the rest.
Let me tell you about a great idea that's out there right now. Some states are starting to talk about something called education savings accounts, just like health savings accounts. And in the example you gave, they give you $6,000. You go and you're a consumer for education. If you want to stay in the traditional public school, fine.
Good for you,
absolutely,
right.
Do it. But if you want to take the $6,000, saving state and local taxpayers $4,000 for your child for the education they would have been funding, and let's say you find a private school you love that's $5,000. Then that $1,000 can roll over into an investment account that you can use in a succeeding year. Let's say the next year you want to go to a school at $7,000, or maybe you save $1,000 a year all the way through high school, and then that extra $12,000 you've saved can be used for college and can be rolled into that. That debate is going on seriously in the state of Florida, who has been an education pioneer and at the forefront of the reform effort. But don't worry, we're going to be working on things in Ohio too to keep us at the front and at the top. Ohio ratings, school ratings just came out, or the national ratings for schools. I don't know if you've seen the news.
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Last year we were 5th, and everyone was making grandiose claims about we're almost number 1.
Yeah, number 1.
And now we're 11.
Oh, that's not going the right way there.
No, it isn't.
That's
one
not
year.
Good.
But I think we there's some good commitments, and seriously, in the Cincinnati area and Cincinnati public schools, they've done some great things to improve their schools. Are they exactly where we want to be? No. Is every child getting what they need? Not yet. But we need to keep improving our public systems, but then give families options, because education is about the individual, and we've got to get away from the mindset that one size will fit all. It doesn't work in anything else. Why should it in education?
I'll tell you what, Chad, the idea of being able to save that money each year and then apply that to college at some point, that is really what America's about. What you're saying is you've got to balance getting the best education for your kid and also what you're spending on it. So you need to get the biggest bang for your buck.
That's right.
And what does that breed? Excellence.
That's right.
That really says I'm going to go ahead and make sure I'm doing my due diligence to research the schools, because, hey, if I can find a school that's given a great education and I can save $1,000 a year, and then I'm saving for my kids' college this way, that's amazing.
Isn't it about time there's some downward pressure on the price of education rather than just a constant escalation of those costs?
This actually works in to some ideas I've had about putting more and more stuff online and, getting rid of some of the traditional brick and mortar schools. I mean, of course, you'd still have them to a degree and you'd have some traditional classes. But I think this could go along with it to say, okay, you're going to spend, $500 a year on these materials, to learn at home, or some extra classes or whatever. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, and you could use any sort of educational options like that. The education savings accounts proposals I've seen so far call for the ability to use it on tutoring. Maybe you homeschool your child, but you want some tutoring dollars to be able to get the advanced instruction in certain areas. It could be used for online or virtual school, like a full-time virtual school. And imagine the marketplace that would be created to provide those services.
That's amazing. It's Chad Aldis from School Choice Ohio. I'll put a link link at my blog, 700WLW.com.
That is fantastic.
Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate it. Good stuff. All right, here's David Armbruster to look at traffic and weather together.
A couple of accidents eastbound on 275 at Route 4. One in the right lane, that's been there a while, and a fresh one in the left lane. A car spun around into the guardrail, and traffic a little bit slow getting by because you're squeezing by in that center lane. Also one southbound 71 as you come down the hill to Red Bank, car in the woods there. At this point, though, really not affecting anything. 71 just kind of wet as you exit at Red Bank Road. Also, northbound 75 between 123 and 73, a leftover, kind of slick in that area still. And northbound on Clarksville at eastbound 73, there is a leftover accident. Also, one just into Montgomery and Ridge. Get on demand traffic, 700WLW.com before leaving the house or office. I'm Dave Armbruster with traffic, 700 WLW.
Now your storm tracker forecast from Fox 19's meteorologist Frank Marzullo. You got that winter storm warning in effect until midnight tonight. The snow continues this afternoon. For your commute, could have 4 inches on the ground by 3 o'clock. Afternoon high around 28. Scattered snow showers tonight. Minor accumulation, though. The winds are going to pick up. We're going to have some drifting snow possible. Overnight low around 19. Currently 25 at the big one. Doc Thompson on 700 WLW. All right, you got West Claremont local schools now taking the first step to put a levy on the ballot in May. A $7.9 million emergency levy. And here's how it's played out. The board has approved a resolution to request the Claremont County Auditor to calculate the millage needed to raise an additional $10.9 million annually. Proposed $7.9 million emergency property tax would expire in 10 years. Estimated cost per $100,000 of home value would be about $242 annually. Just $242 annually, that's it. About $20 per month. For every $100,000. What do you get for $20 a month? Well, if it's a $200,000 house, that puts you at $40 a month. You're looking at a gas fill-up per month. If it's a $300,000 a house, you're looking at $60 a month. $242 a year. If you have a for a $100,000 house. $726 every year for a $300,000 house. That's not crazy living it up with $300,000 house. You're not one of those rich people or anything like that. But let's look at it this way. They say this emergency property tax would expire in 10 years. Now I'm laughing because even if they put it to expire, they're going to come back to you in 10 years and say, well, we've been having this for 10 years. Now you want it to cut back? We need it. So in 10 years, per $100,000 house, that's $2,400. That means if you have a $300,000 house, you're looking at $7,000 that it's going to cost you in 10 years. Over the course of 10 years for a $300,000 house, $7,000. Keep in mind, those are post-tax numbers. How much money will you have to earn in 10 years to be able to pay $7,000 for something? Because that's post-tax, right? You'd have to earn that to pay your property tax then. And here's what I find so upsetting about this. This is what is so outrageous about it. Elena Cooper, the treasurer, said, our district, like many districts in the state, is facing a financial crisis. We would have liked for the economy to have turned around a little bit better to have recovered a little bit more, but we had to come up with this request. But unfortunately, our revenues have fallen so far behind that we need to bring this request now. I need to let you know, West Claremont schools, I will fight this every day up and until you put this on the ballot in May. Just as I will fight every other levy until you really come to me with a plan. Until you really come up with a funding plan for education that straightens this all out, I'm going to fight everyone and say you need to cut because we are broke. $8 billion in the state. Don't come to me for a levy. Don't do it. Doc Thompson on 700 WL. Coming up today with Willie on the Big Show at 106. Is this the end of smoking in the Bluegrass State? Willie lights him up at 106. All right, this is just wrong. This is just... No, somebody sent me I put up on the blog, 700WLW.com. My blog's brought to you by the American Trading Company. A separated at birth. The crazy shooter from Saturday and Uncle Fester. Because if I see that shooter walking up, there's a red flag. Hey, this guy's nuts. It's not just the bald head. It's the crazy eyes, and you can tell he's a little off. So somebody sends me an email that says, subject, shooter boy photo. I open it up. Hey, I had another thought of who the shooter looks like. It's a picture of the bulldog. He doesn't look like the shooter. He doesn't have the crazy eyes. Yes, he's bald. Jim and Amelia, you're on 700 WLW.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
I live here in Amelia, and they just built a new Amelia Elementary on Main Street here. Just brand new this year, right?
Yep.
And they got one down at Withamsville, brand new. You know what I'm talking about?
In the West Claremont School District.
Yes, sir. And every year since I've been here for 7 years, they always put a school levy. It never fails, and I don't have any kids anymore. And it's just unbelievable how much you're trying to squeeze out of us. And it just irks me that every year we have to vote against a school levy. Like, you got 2 new schools. What else do you want? I don't understand how much more they want.
How successful have they been at passing the levies?
Well, they must have done something right because they got 2 new elementary schools.
So, yeah, they obviously are doing something right as far as getting them passed. Here's another flaw with you, with the whole system, Jim. It also allows people to vote on these levies who don't own property and say, we're going to go ahead and stick it to the people who do own property.
And when it does fail, they'll put it on the next election.
Yeah, and they just keep doing this. And we've seen this not just with levies. We've seen this with legislation, even as far as the health care legislation and everything else. They just continue to put it out there until the exact political climate is right, and somebody will end up voting for it.
Yes, and it's just like getting so redundant. It's just like, come on already, you know? What do you want?
So what are you going to do? They're going to put this on the ballot in May, it looks like, or there's a good shot they're going to. Are you going to vote for it?
Oh, no, wait, no, sir, no.
All right, well, I appreciate your passion. Thank you so much. Let's go to Cause in Norwood. You're on the big one.
Hey, Doc.
How you doing?
Just wanted to reiterate on what Jim was saying. I live out in Amelia myself, and we've got these 2 new beautiful schools. But what the kicker is on 125, they've got a $10,000 lighted-up billboard that tells you it's Amelia School and what temperature it is. What is that teaching my child? What is that teaching us? Just not to be frugal, and I see them on TV, and they're sitting in the $300 secretary chair talking about we need more money. Well, why don't you sit in one of the students' chair and be part of the PTA and not have this cush-tush job that you want? Let's reorganize. If I don't have the money, I don't spend it.
Now, the sign you're talking about, describe the sign to me.
Oh, it says, Amelia Elementary School, Amelia Tigers are courteous and friendly, and it's 38 degrees outside at 7:52.
Now, is it on a pole or is it on the ground?
No, it's a brick encased sign, like a marquee, and it's all digital. I'm in the construction business. I'm going to say it's a $10,000 piece of work.
Let's say for 1 second, Cause, that you are off your nut and it's only a $3,000 sign. Does that make it really any better to say we're going to spend $3,000 on a sign when we could be, first of all, giving it back to the people or not taking it from them? Or if you're really concerned about education, is that sign educating any kid?
Well, I guess it tells the bus driver where he needs to turn at if he didn't already know.
You know what?
Furthermore, my dashboard's got a clock on it.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need those anymore. Back in the day, you didn't have clocks in your cars or only, the really rich people did. Now we have thermostats in them and clocks and computers and everything else.
Exactly. And, GPS tells you where to turn at. You don't need a big sign.
I would, and that goes along with what I've said, Cause, when it comes to these buildings. Look at these new schools and look at the stuff that they're putting in these schools that we don't need. Is it nice? Sure, it's nice to have if money was not a concern. But money clearly is a concern, and not just for us as individuals, but school districts as well. I mean, had they been saving, think about this, Cause. We've got schools that teach home economics. Remember that? It was home economics, and the idea wasn't just, hey, we're going to teach you to bake a cake and sew an apron. It was, we're going to teach you how to run a household. We're going to teach you how to be efficient. They teach these things. We've got teachers in the schools that teach other forms of economics, and these school districts don't understand some of the basics of economics that even if it's going really good today, even if things are going great, down the road it may not, so you better save your pennies.
Well, they must understand it because they've got degrees that allow them to teach it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it all makes about as much sense as windshield wipers on a cricket's ass to me, but, what do I know? I just pay the taxes.
No, cause you really do know. Trust me, you got a better understanding than those people. You're absolutely right about the sign. I haven't seen the sign, but I don't cost if it only costs $14. That's $14 you took from the people unnecessarily, and it's $14 that if you really say you're concerned about education, it's $14 that could be doing what? Could be actually educating a kid. If it's $14, give it to a kid to put towards a scholarship. I mean, I'd rather you not take it from the people, but if you are going to take it, at least give it to the kid. Buy a book. Do something like that. So frustrated about it. Look at these schools. You're right. By the way, let me point this out. As I managed, before I purchased my home, to do the tour of every flea bag motel in the Tri-State, and a couple of nice ones, too. I got all the little local cable accesses from all over the area. And as I would be bored in the little hotel room, would flip around and watch the little town meetings. Every little town, every little school board having their meetings. Why do they have these chambers? He mentioned the chairs. He's right. Cause was right. They have these little placards. Mr. Thompson. Mr. Cunningham. Mr. Sloan. These big chairs. They have that big desk. Do we really need that for every stupid little town in the area? It's a waste of money. You're right. School board meeting. Why can't you meet at one of the schools? You can't go into one of the study halls or one of the auditoriums or something to have your meeting. Well, no, you can't if you're really worried about being special. It's somebody with a little bit of power. I have power. Did you ever have a boss who was a first-time boss? Did you ever get a boss who was his first shot or her first shot at being the boss and calling the shots? A lot of times they're crazy. They're off their rocker. Why? Because they have the power now. And that's what I see these. Small little towns. One-horse towns, you got one cop, but you got a mayor. You go to these school board meetings, and these people, you'd think that they were the most important person on earth. These people are curing cancer and splitting the atom, all right there in their little meeting. They're doing all these things. I'm serious. That's the reason they have the little placard, Mr. Thompson, the big leather chairs, the big desks, it's curved, and they all sit apart. You've seen these on your local cable access if you've never been to a meeting. They sit more than an arm's length apart. Sit there very proper. I'm in charge. I'm behind the desk. The flag behind them sometimes. You don't need that stuff. Get together, have a meeting in some place that already exists, and save that money. Especially when you come to me and tell me you're going to need another school levy because you don't have enough dough. Tell you what, you go sell those placards with your name on it. You can find somebody with that name. You go ahead and sell that desk and everything else. Then we'll talk about the school levy. It's Doc Thompson on the big one, 700 WLW.
I'm looking at this jackknife tractor trailer. It's westbound on 275 just before 471, and at this point it is blocking 3 lanes. This guy really got jackknifed. The front end is into the woods just a bit. So you're getting by in the left lane only, but traffic is pretty light, so it's really not much of a delay at the moment. 471 itself at this point looks good all the way to the river, as does northbound 75 through the Covington cut in the hill. Still have a leftover accident, just about gone now, though. Eastbound on 275 near Route 4. It's all pushed over on the right shoulder at this point. Get on-demand traffic, 700WLW.com before leaving the house or office. I'm Dave Armbruster with traffic, 700 WLW.
Your Fox 19 Storm Tracker forecast from meteorologist Frank Marzullo. You got a winter storm warning in effect until midnight tonight. Periods of snow throughout the afternoon. On your commute home when you're listening to Sloaney and Tracy, could have 4 inches on the ground by then. You got periodic snow showers throughout the evening. Afternoon high around 28. You've got scattered snow showers and minor accumulation tonight. Overnight low around 19. Currently, it's 25 at the big one. Doc Thompson on 700 WLW. Something really interesting. The Cincinnati Public Schools have agreed to try to launch a public boarding house for 400 of the students where the kids would stay there. They'd go home on weekends and stuff, but it'd be a boarding house. The hell's the purpose of that? Well, they say the goal is to basically help at-risk kids before they fall through the cracks in that. Help them get through high school and college because they say, according to Brian Neal, he is the Ohio director of the SEED Foundation, Schools for Educational Evolution and Development, and they're pushing this. He says there are certain students that need a change in environment in order to succeed. Okay, I'll give you that, sure. Why are you just giving them boarding school? Things are that bad at their house that you're saying they can't live there. They can't stay at home because otherwise they're going to fall through the cracks. They're at risk, blah, blah, blah. What are they at risk of? So it's okay that they go there on weekends still? We don't want you to live in this horrible place. We just want you to visit there now and then. We don't want you to be, around it 24/7, just on holidays and weekends. Get them out of there. If things are that bad at their home where they are at risk, then take them out of the homes and put them in a foster home. Am I missing something on this? If I am, correct me. They say the school will be for students for grades 6 through 12, would provide round-the-clock intervention and support along with the college preparatory classes. Interesting. They had bills that would change Ohio law that would allow them to make this possible last June. They're expected to reintroduce the legislation this month. It's a horrible place. You're going to fall through the cracks. You're at risk because of your home life. So we got to get you out of there, and we're going to board you, 400 of you. I imagine at least some of the money, I guess some of it would come from SEED. I don't know if any of it would ever come out of our pocket, I guess potentially. But it's so bad, you can't stay there. We just want you to visit there on weekend and holidays. Is that a reminder of how bad it could be? I guess you're like, I have it pretty good here. I have it pretty good at this school. I better keep getting good grades. It's like prison fantasy camp or something like that. Or you get to go there on weekends. You get to visit the horrible place. Sounds silly to me. Tom and Bethel, you're on 700 WLW.
Hey, I don't know if you ever went past these two schools in Amelia.
I don't know. I haven't been by those two.
You got to go by them. I mean, these people think, Weston Claremont is starting to think they live like Cadillac people. Mm-hmm. They got these schools that are more like a palace. They got these big arches. They're, whatever happened to designing a school, a 2-story building, like a rectangle to save money. They're complaining they don't have any money, but they never let anybody really see the design program.
Would that really inspire kids, though, Tom, if it were a rectangle? Would it really inspire them?
I don't know. I did all right. I went to school like that.
Well, there you go. Yeah, how did America get here? How did we end up here and do this? What are the two schools you're talking about? Give me the two.
The one in Amelia, right on Main Street, and the one in Withamsville, which is on 125. They're the same road. They're about 8 miles apart. And the thing is, if you want to save money and they're complaining they don't have any money, any builder will tell you anything that's square and rectangle
going to be cheaper.
It's going to be cheaper. Anybody knows that. But they got these arches and this and that in it. It's overbuilt and this and, they probably ended up spending an extra $15 million. They didn't need to.
All right, I appreciate the call, sir. Thanks so much. Let me get one more in here before I let it go. Bill and Amelia.
Yeah, I just wanted to weigh in on this West Claremont tax and something that's a real pet peeve and really just irks me as a taxpayer in the West Claremont School District. Recently in 2010, West Claremont was given an award, Excellence and Distinction for Academic Accomplishments, and that's a great thing. I'm real proud of that. Unfortunately, when letting the public know about it, they issued press release, and there were stories in the community journal and the newspaper. They put it on the website. They put banners on the schools, and I think maybe the kids got T-shirts to wear, and that's all well and good from a standpoint of school pride and school accomplishment. But what really irked me is when I'm driving down State Route 125, and there's a billboard that says West Claremont Schools Excellence with Distinction. I don't know exactly how much a billboard costs, but one of those electronic billboards on State Route 125 sees about 60,000 cars a day or something like that. It costs a few bucks. Then when I got a four-color double-sided flyer in the mail telling me nothing but the fact that West Claremont Schools got excellence with distinction, it just rankled me so badly that my tax dollars were being spent in that way for, I think they should be proud of their accomplishment, but that, after all, that's the expectation that I have as a taxpayer.
Right, exactly. You expect it to be the highest quality education possible, and it's fine to let people know, but, don't spend all the money sending this stuff out. Bill, I appreciate the call, and I just got an email from Ron. Okay, we're done here. We're done. School levies, sorry, we're absolutely. According to Ron, West Claremont has a rock climbing wall in the gym. Okay, that's it. Doctor's taking off the headphones. It's time to go.
Let's go!
All righty, that is it, ladies and gentlemen, the end of the Doc Thompson Show. But before we go, as always, let's find out what we learned today. We learned the White Death has shut down the tri-state. We're all going to die. We learned that Jared Loeffner, his real last name might be Adams. We learned that education is fine, but can your kids climb a rock wall? We learned a CPS boarding school will still include weekend prison fantasy camps. We learned that we must protect Congress, so we will control what you think. And finally, we learned that acts of violence are down since the birth of talk radio. Feel free to thank me later. Have yourself a great day. Good night, Steve Cannon, wherever you are. On Young. Now, go home.